Hello everyone, today I will continue sharing the story of the single mother Tiểu San. I hope you enjoy the video. The Christmas spirit had truly spread everywhere. From streets glowing with lights, shops decorated with sparkling Christmas trees, to gentle Christmas melodies drifting through the chilly evening air. Another festive season had arrived, bringing with it a special sense of peace that only the end of the year can offer. This year, for Hoai, Christmas was no longer a series of quiet, lonely days as before. For the first time in a very long while, he felt the full meaning of the word family. By his side now were Tiểu San and Ivy, the small mother and daughter pair who had quietly stepped into his life, bringing warmth and simple yet priceless joys with them. Hoai recalled past Christmases, times when he was either buried in work or sitting alone in a spacious room, the glittering lights outside only deepening the emptiness inside. But this year was different. Just imagining Tiểu San busily preparing dinner, Ivy toddling around the small Christmas tree at home, eyes shining as she waited for Santa Claus, was enough to soften his heart. And this year, Hoai had a plan. A plan he had been nurturing for days, waiting for Christmas night to carry out together with Tiểu San. Each time he thought of that moment, his heart fluttered like a child receiving a first Christmas gift. He didn't say it out loud, but deep down he hoped tonight would become a truly special memory, not loud, not showy, just warm enough for the three of them to remember forever. That afternoon, when work was finally done, Hoai left the office earlier than usual. In his hands were a few small bags, some sweets Ivy loved, a few simple Christmas decorations, and a carefully wrapped gift. He parked in front of Tiểu San's house, took a gentle deep breath, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation spread through his chest. Inside the small house, warm yellow light spilled from the windows, comforting and familiar in a way that felt almost magical. Hoai smiled softly. It was just an ordinary winter afternoon, yet for him it marked the beginning of the most complete Christmas he had ever known. While Hoai was lost in his thoughts, Tiểu San had finished preparing dinner. The table was filled with familiar dishes Hoai liked, not elaborate, but carefully cooked. The warm aroma of food spread through the small kitchen, blending with the faint scent of pine and the soft glow of Christmas lights, making the space feel unexpectedly intimate. The three of them gathered around the table beside the simply decorated yet cozy Christmas tree. Ivy sat in the middle, chatting happily about school while eating, occasionally looking up at the sparkling ornaments on the tree, her eyes full of excitement. Tiểu San smiled now and then, reminding her to eat more slowly, while Hoai quietly watched the two of them, a feeling hard to name rising in his heart, peaceful and complete. In that moment, Hoai realized that happiness could be as simple as sharing dinner with the people you love, in a small home, during a chilly yet wonderfully warm Christmas season. After dinner, while Ivy was busy playing near the tree, Hoai finally spoke, his voice betraying a hint of nervousness. Tiểu San, there's something I've been wanting to tell you for a while. Tiểu San looked up, slightly surprised by his rare seriousness. What is it? Hoai took a deep breath and shared his thoughts. He wanted to donate part of his money and work with the church to organize a Christmas celebration for underprivileged children, so they, too, could have a complete Christmas, with gifts, lights, and laughter like any other child. For a moment, Tiểu San was stunned. She looked at him, as if to make sure she had heard correctly. You really think so? Hoai nodded, his eyes sincere and steady. Since having Tiểu San and Ivy by his side, he explained, he had come to understand the true value of sharing. Some children were born with so little, and if he could do something, even something small, he wanted to try. A gentle smile slowly appeared on Tiểu San's lips. Her initial surprise gave way to deep emotion. I support you, she said softly but firmly. I truly support this idea. And I want to go with you and help prepare everything. Hoai looked at Tiểu San, feeling a great warmth fill his heart. Beside them, Ivy laughed innocently, unaware that on that Christmas night, amid twinkling lights and a simple meal, something beautiful had quietly begun. After Tiểu San put Ivy to bed, the small house grew quieter. Outside, the night breeze gently swayed the Christmas lights on the porch, their flickering glow casting a soft, festive warmth into the living room. Hoai and Tiểu San sat at the table, spreading out a few blank sheets of paper. Without flowery words, they began planning in a simple yet enthusiastic way. Hai suggested the tasks ahead, contacting the church, estimating the number of children, preparing gifts, and light snacks. Tieu San carefully took notes, occasionally adding small details: warm milk for the kids, a few winter coats, easy-to-carry snack packs. The more they discussed, the happier they felt. The atmosphere between them was not tense or heavy, but light and harmonious. Every idea was met with a nod or a smile, as if they had long been used to walking side by side. The next morning, as the streets grew livelier with Christmas shoppers, Hai and Tieu San went out together. They stopped by stores to choose small gifts: teddy bears, coloring books, pencil boxes, candies, and cakes. Tieu San selected each item carefully, putting herself in the children's shoes, choosing only what felt practical and warm. Hai walked beside her, sometimes carrying the bags, sometimes stopping to ask, "Does this work?" Tieu San smiled and nodded, her eyes glowing with genuine joy. They also bought wrapping paper, ribbons, small candles, and a few simple decorations for the event. The bags in their hands grew heavier, but neither felt tired. Instead, Hai felt a strange sensation rising within him, as if he were preparing something meaningful not just for others, but for himself as well. Amid the bustling Christmas crowds, Hai and Tieu San walked side by side, quiet, unassuming. Yet it was precisely that quiet companionship that created a deep, rounded happiness, the happiness of sharing, of walking together, and of a Christmas season becoming more special than ever. Christmas night finally arrived. From early on, the church grounds were livelier than usual. Colorful lights lined the pathways and wrapped around old trees, reflecting on the dew-damp stone tiles in shimmering patterns. Church bells rang out, mingling with cheerful voices and warming the cold winter night. More and more people arrived, families holding hands, elderly couples in warm coats, and most of all, children, their eyes shining with excitement as they spotted the large Christmas tree in the courtyard. Neatly arranged gift boxes, wrapped in bright paper with red ribbons, stood out under the soft golden lights. Volunteers bustled about, adjusting chairs, hanging wreaths, bringing out hot drinks and pastries. No one needed instructions, everyone worked with smiles, as if they themselves were receiving gifts that night. Hai stood beside Tieu San, with Ivy close by. Ivy wore a new warm coat and a small knitted scarf, her cheeks pink from the cold but her eyes sparkling with joy. She kept looking around, from the tree to the children lined up ahead. "Uncle Hai, it's so crowded and fun," Ivy whispered excitedly. Then she tugged gently at his hand, hesitant but determined. Can I help give out the gifts?" Hai bent down, looked at her for a moment, then smiled and nodded. He placed a small gift box into her hands and gave her careful instructions. Ivy hugged the box to her chest and walked forward slowly, seriously, as if carrying out an important mission. Christmas music played, soft yet cheerful. Children laughed and chatted, adults talked nearby, occasionally bursting into laughter at the kids' innocent remarks. The atmosphere was lively but not noisy, warm and close-knit, like a big family gathered for a holiday night. Tieu San stood slightly behind, quietly taking it all in. She watched Ivy hand a gift to a thin little girl with hastily tied hair and a worn coat. The girl took the box, hesitated, then hugged it tightly and bowed her head. "This Christmas, I have a gift." The words were very soft, nearly lost in the music and laughter, yet they rang clearly in Tieu San's heart. In that bustling moment, her throat tightened. She remembered her own hard days, the nights worrying about Ivy's future, the Christmases that had passed in silence and struggle. She turned away slightly, took a deep breath, steadying herself. Hai noticed too. Standing in the church courtyard amid bright lights and children's laughter, he felt a strange warmth and peace. For the first time, he truly understood that joy didn't lie in grand things, but in seeing happiness on others' faces. Giving, he realized, was the way to receive the most. He turned to Tieu San. Under the golden lights, her face looked gentler than ever, her eyes shining with sincere emotion. Beside them, Ivy laughed brightly, continuing to hand out small gifts, receiving radiant smiles and shy but heartfelt thanks in return. The church bells rang again, marking a sacred moment of Christmas night. Everyone paused, holding small lit candles. The light wasn't dazzling, but it was enough to illuminate smiling faces and sparkling eyes. Amid that lively yet warm scene, Tieu San and Ivy stood together. No grand promises, nothing showy, just this moment was enough, when everyone was happy, when the warmth of Christmas spread everywhere, to become a beautiful memory they would carry far into the future. A complete Christmas, beginning with sharing, and ending with hearts gently warmed. Christmas tree sparkling heart. Amid the lively yet cozy atmosphere, as Christmas music continued to play softly and candlelight shimmered across every face, suddenly reached out and gently took Tieu San's hand. His hand was warm and steady, making her pause for a moment. She turned to look at him, her eyes not yet able to form a question, when stepped forward, positioning himself where everyone could see. The church courtyard was still filled with laughter, yet it felt as if something different was unfolding. Turned back, calmly taking out a large bouquet of roses he had prepared in advance. The deep red roses, fresh and vibrant, stood out against the soft golden lights of Christmas night, carrying with them all the sincerity, nervousness, and determination he had held in his heart for so many days. The surrounding atmosphere gradually quieted. Conversations faded, laughter softened. All eyes turned toward and Tieu San. Even the children holding gifts stopped in curiosity, their round eyes fixed on the scene. Took a deep breath. In the gentle chill of Christmas night, his voice was low and warm, not trembling, but filled with emotion. Tieu San. I'm not good with flowery words. But in front of everyone here tonight, I want to say something from my heart. He looked straight into her eyes, his gaze steady. I can't promise you a perfect life. But I promise to stand by you and Ivy, through peaceful days and through the hardest moments. I want to walk with you, not just today, but for the rest of my life. In that moment, time seemed to slow. The church bells rang just then, clear and resonant, as if offering their blessing. And suddenly, the space erupted, cheers and applause echoed across the courtyard. People smiled and congratulated them, some even whistled joyfully. Volunteers exchanged emotional glances, a few quickly wiping away tears. Tieu San stood still for a heartbeat. Her heart raced as if it might burst from her chest. She looked at the bouquet in Hai's hands, then at his face, the face of a man not perfect, but sincere and steady enough to make her feel safe. Her eyes quickly filled with tears before she even realized it. She reached out to accept the bouquet. The soft rose petals brushing her fingers seemed to bring her back to herself. A radiant smile broke across her face, happy and overwhelmed all at once. Without needing any further words, Tieu San stepped forward and wrapped her arms tightly around Hai, holding him for a long, long moment, as if gathering up all the old wounds and past worries, exchanging them for the peace now present. Amid the unending applause and congratulations, Hai gently wrapped his arms around Tieu San. They stood there, clearly feeling each other's heartbeat, sharing warmth in the winter night. Nearby, Ivy stood holding her small gift box, watching them with a bright, innocent smile, as if, to her, this moment had always been meant to be. That Christmas night, under dazzling lights and among strangers full of kindness, Hai's promise was more than a Christmas gift. It was a declaration that from this moment on, Tieu San was no longer alone, and their small family had truly begun. The night grew late. After the charity event ended, the church courtyard slowly emptied. The Christmas lights were still on, but the earlier bustle had faded. Laughter and conversation softened, giving way to the quiet stillness of a winter night filled with emotion. Hai drove slowly as they left the familiar neighborhood. Most shops along the road were already closed, leaving only a few warm yellow lights glowing behind glass windows, reflecting on the dew-damp pavement. The silence was so deep that the soft hum of the engine blended with the cold night wind. Ivy sat in the back seat, at first forcing her eyes open to watch the decorative lights slip past outside the window. But soon, she leaned forward slightly, her head tilting to one side, and fell asleep without realizing it. When the car stopped in front of the house, Hai gently lifted Ivy into his arms. She slept soundly, her breathing even, one hand still tightly clutching her small gift box as if afraid to let it go. She stirred slightly, instinctively wrapping her arms around Hai's neck, a light embrace that made him pause for a moment. Tieu San stood behind them, quietly watching. Under the porch light, the image of Hai holding Ivy looked strikingly warm and clear. In that moment, Tieu San realized something very simple: this scene was no longer distant or imagined. It was real, close, tangible, like a future unfolding right before her eyes. She opened the door gently so as not to wake Ivy. Hai laid the child on the bed, carefully pulling up the blanket and adjusting the small pillow so she could sleep comfortably. His movements were slow and natural, unprompted, as if he had long been used to caring for a child. Tieu San leaned against the doorframe, silently observing. Her heart tightened, but not from sadness. From emotion. When Ivy was sleeping peacefully, they stepped back into the living room. The small house still carried the scent of sweet pastries, Christmas pine, and soft yellow lights reflecting on the tiled floor. The space was quiet, so different from the earlier excitement, yet filled with a deep sense of peace. Tieu San sat down, holding the bouquet of roses Hai had given her. She looked at the deep red petals and suddenly thought of the path she had walked. She remembered the years of being a single mother, the nights Ivy had a high fever, when she held her until morning. The late afternoons after work, exhausted and worried, afraid her child had been waiting too long. Past Christmases when it was just her and Ivy, simple, yet always carrying a silent worry about tomorrow. Back then, Tieu San believed she had grown used to being strong. Used to not expecting, not hoping too much, so she wouldn't be disappointed. She once thought that as long as Ivy was safe, nothing else mattered. But now, sitting in this small house on a late Christmas night, she realized she was no longer afraid of thinking about tomorrow. Not because everything was perfect, but because this time, beside her, was a man who dared to stand before everyone and give her a promise, not loud, not showy, but steady enough for her to believe in. Tieu San looked up at Hai. He was standing near the window, adjusting a strand of Christmas lights that had slipped, the glow reflecting on his face in a calm, contemplative way. In that moment, she understood that this love was different from what she had once imagined. Not intense. Not rushed. But solid. Hai turned and met her gaze. He didn't say anything, just walked over and sat beside her. Between them was a comfortable silence, one that needed no explanations, no disguises. Outside, Christmas night drifted by slowly. And in that small house, Tieu San knew that from this moment on, the future was no longer something she feared, but something she began to look forward to. The next Christmas morning, Tieu San woke up very early. Outside, the sky was still veiled in a thin layer of mist. Morning light slipped gently through the window, softer and clearer than usual. The house was so quiet that she could hear the clock ticking and the light breeze brushing past the porch. Tieu San sat up, taking a few seconds to realize that everything was real, not a dream. The red roses were neatly placed on the table, their petals slightly curled after a long night. The Christmas lights were still on, casting a warm golden glow on the floor, as if trying to hold on to the warmth of the night before. She stepped quietly out of the room and peeked into Ivy's. The little girl was still sleeping soundly, arms wrapped tightly around her Christmas gift, her face peaceful. Tieu San smiled instinctively. A new feeling settled in her heart, not the constant worry of a single mother, but a gentle, genuine sense of reassurance. In the kitchen, Tieu San began preparing breakfast. The soft sound of running water, the faint aroma of toasted bread filling the space. She moved slowly, unhurried, as if savoring each ordinary moment she had rarely allowed herself to pause for before. Soon, light footsteps sounded behind her. Hai appeared at the kitchen doorway, a thin jacket draped loosely over his shoulders, his hair slightly tousled from sleep. He stood there for a few seconds, watching Tieu San move about the kitchen, his eyes quiet but warm. "You're up already?" Tieu San turned, a little surprised, then smiled. "Yeah," Hai replied softly. "The house was so quiet, I woke up without realizing it." They sat together at the small table by the window. Morning light streamed in, revealing every genuine expression on each other's faces. No Christmas music, no bustling crowd, just the two of them, a peaceful morning, and the clear feeling that something had changed. Hai spoke first. His voice was slow, no longer carrying the nervousness of the night before, but deeper and steadier. Tieu San. I want to be clear with you about our future. Tieu San gently placed her hands on the table and listened. She didn't avoid it, nor did she rush. She truly wanted to hear him. I didn't come into your life because of a passing feeling, Hai continued. I've thought a lot, about you, about Ivy, about the life I want. I know you've had to carry so much on your own, and I don't want to stand on the sidelines anymore. He looked at her, his gaze firm. I don't promise to do everything for you. But I want to share it with you. The worries, the joys, the responsibilities. Not as someone who passes through, but as someone who stays. Tieu San was silent for a long moment. She looked out the window at the sunlight rising higher, then turned back to Hai. In her eyes was no longer the usual caution, but the maturity of someone who had been hurt enough to know what she needed. I'm not afraid to start again, she said softly. I'm just afraid of starting the wrong way. She took a light breath. But what you've done, it's not just for me, it's for Ivy too. That matters to me more than anything. Hai nodded, not interrupting. I don't need a perfect promise, Tieu San continued. I need presence. Mornings like this. Nights when Ivy is sick. Tired days. If you're ready for those very real things, then I am too. Hai didn't say anything else. He simply reached out and took Tieu San's hand. His hand was warm and steady. Tieu San didn't pull away. She squeezed gently, a reply without words. Just then, Ivy's sleepy voice called from the bedroom. Mom. Uncle Hai. Both of them laughed softly. Tieu San stood up first, Hai following. Ivy ran out, hair messy, eyes half closed, but the moment she saw them standing together, she broke into a smile. Is it still Christmas? She asked innocently. Hai bent down and gently patted her head. Christmas is still in our home. Tieu San watched the two of them, her heart warming in a way that was hard to describe. There was no grand ceremony marking that moment, but she knew it clearly. From this Christmas morning on, their small family had truly taken shape. Not through paperwork. Not through ornate vows. But through the choice to stay, every single day.
Hello mọi người, chào mừng mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình và cảm ơn mọi người đã lắng nghe hết câu chuyện ngày hôm nay và hy vọng rằng mọi người vẫn sẽ yêu thích những câu chuyện mà mình chia sẻ. Nếu mà mọi người yêu thích và ủng hộ kênh cho mình thì nhớ like, share, bật chuông thông báo để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất và nhớ cho mình một số nhận xét ở dưới phần bình luận để mình có động lực ra nhiều video hơn cho mọi người cùng xem. Hiện tại thì những video của mình đang được phát hành vào khung giờ 7 giờ tối và 7 giờ sáng và thường kể câu chuyện về người mẹ đơn thân Tiểu San và hoài ca. Mọi người nhớ chú ý đón xem những video của mình nhé. Cảm ơn mọi người đã lắng nghe hết một phút chia sẻ. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người ở những video tiếp theo của mình.